Hi, I'm Mike Chapman and I'm a sculptor, and I produced the originals of this pair that you can see here, which are castings, Brother Sun and Sister Moon, and they're based on St. Francis of Assisi and Sister Clare. And I first came across the story of these two people a long time ago when I was living in London. I was a young man, and I went for a walk one rainy Saturday and saw a film advertised called Brother Sun and Sister Moon, and I was intrigued, and in the end I went in and watched it. And it was a delightful story about these two people and how they met and what their beliefs were. They were persecuted and given a really hard time in Rome in the old days. They weren't really approved of for their attitudes towards Christianity. But eventually the Pope decided they were good eggs, and he came up with a lovely phrase during their trial. I believe it was him, and he said, sometimes we're so obsessed with original sin that we forget the importance of original innocence. And with that, these two were pardoned of all their sins and went off to live a life of simple loving of nature, worshipping God through nature. And I really loved that. Something about it always stuck in my mind. And many years later, I became a stone carver and a sculptor, and enjoyed a very different life to the one I'd had back then, which was much nearer to the simplicity that I'd fallen in love with during those times, and much more involved with nature and the real world. And so it's not surprising that eventually I produced a carving in honor of the two of them, just these two heads. And I see them as almost stellar objects. I always imagine them floating through space and coming together, almost like planets. So the one on the left obviously is Brother Sun. You can't really see Sister Moon at the moment because she's in slate in the original. These are plaster casts, but the originals are almost exactly this colour. This one's in a very nice limestone, Portland limestone, and this one's in slate. So Sister Clare is the one on the right. And it was a story about love, really, an innocent love of two people who came together because they cared about the same stuff. And I really liked that. And so this is how they came about. And the originals are in London in a collection, and I've made 2 or 3 copies so far, and will continue to do so. I think there's a limited edition of 5 of them, but that doesn't matter. And these two have ended up here in this beautiful chapel, and it's exactly the kind of place that I want a sculpture to be. It's just peaceful and quiet, and people can enjoy them as part of the overall surroundings. And so that's the story.